And we can thank Dillon Dube for last night's win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and today Nick and I are going to be breaking down the emotions, the roller coaster ride, and of course, Johnny Gaudreau's return to Calgary here on Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. I am so happy that the Flames won last night, and we're going to take a look kind of the roller coaster of emotions that last night was. I'm joined by Nick Zararis here. It is the usual Tuesday crew. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm very glad the Flames won. I was tired last night to begin with. There were so many things on last night I was keeping an eye on, keeping the Flames game on. Though that time zone start is rough. That game had overtime written all over it, and at one point I was like, this is going to go to a shootout and drag on and on and on, and I'm never going to get to sleep tonight, and we're not going to have anything positive to talk about on the show tomorrow if they lose, and nobody wants to get together for a funeral. It's not as fun when you have to get together and do a, well, that sucked, didn't it, episode of the pod. That was as chaotic a game you're going to get in the regular season between a presumptive playoff team and a lottery team, which is the very funny part of this when you take like the 1,000-foot view of this. Like, why is Lucic throwing punches like it's 2013 in a game for his life? Like, he was trying to stop the momentum swing in that game with every fiber of his being, trying to be useful as best as he possibly could last night. That game was extremely chaotic for a regular season game, and to be frank, it was very fun. It's been a while since the Flames have played a game like that was just fun chaos as opposed to just ugly chaos, which they've had quite a few of down the stretch here. But again, there's a lot to unpack here. The emotions were nuts last night.
They were all over the place. I mean, like, people were booing him, which I understand and can whatever, do your thing. I saw plenty of signs that were just kind of outing people as just absolute losers. There was a Meredith said you have to be home by 10 sign, and like, oh my God, please get a life. Again, this is a Monday night game in the dead of winter in Calgary against the worst team in the league. I get it. It's the return of your franchise player, but please, like, start spending your money in better ways. I don't know what to tell you there. But yeah, no, there really was a lot of emotions all over the place last night. And even for Gaudreau, I think that, he spent really his early adulthood here, the last 9-10 years. And he even said himself, not being able to see my parents for 3 years because of the pandemic was brutal. And that's the real life aspect of hockey. It's not just you go out there, you lace up your skates, and just score goals. There's so much more to it.
It's really complicated because so much of the way sports are covered, at least in North America, is just about, it's about the team, it's about the salary cap, the trade deadline, the offseason, the transactions, the gossip. We don't really get to know these guys on a personal level. We don't, unless they're forthcoming with who they are, where they one of like the 8 people in the entire league who likes attention. We don't really know a lot about these guys beyond what they choose to tell us. Like, I'm sure at some point, if Johnny had said that, it's been really tough for me these last couple of years. It's hard to make yourself vulnerable like that. Not a lot of guys, especially in a sport like hockey, which has its own issues with identity and culture and how guys choose to identify themselves and what they choose to make public about themselves. Nobody wants to be bigger than the team. No one wants to say, well, I've had a rough time the last couple of months, last couple of years because of this pandemic. No one wants to come off as soft. It's a real challenge in this sport for guys to make themselves human, which I know that's something I've always found very interesting, is those kind of long form type things where you get to really understand how guys think. That tells me
Mhm.
a lot more. I find that stuff a lot more interesting than the roster transaction stuff that is sports media in today's landscape. But the problem with that is you got to have access, and not a lot of guys are willing to give sports media that access to open themselves up and make themselves available.
Yeah, usually I don't want to say it's quote unquote too late to do that when they write their Players Tribune article, but you do get a good insight on who these players are, what goes through their mind, and Gaudreau has always been the underdog.
Yeah.
He has always been, this tiny, undersized kid playing in Hockey East. Like he won the Hobie Baker. I think in 2011, he won a national championship with BC. Like that's to me, that screams a first round pick, but only if he's over 6 feet tall.
You're
But
at, you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where, and that's part of why the emotions of this are so strong. You got in on the ground floor of Johnny Gaudreau in 2013, 2014. You got in the ground floor of this dynamic dude who's 5'8" and only eats ham and cheese sandwiches. That is appealing. That is an
right.
interesting. That is an interesting. Like, okay, this is a quirky little guy. I'm invested in this. Let's see what happens. And then you see the flashes. You have 2 Hart Trophy caliber seasons spread out across those 9 seasons he's in Calgary. People are really invested in that now. They feel like Johnny Gaudreau is part of their team. Their team is part of their identity. They feel an affinity. They're attached to Johnny Gaudreau. And it's one of the things that's unique about sports is that parasocial relationship that everyone has with their favorite team. Not everybody interacts with their favorite team in the same way. I would go as far to say everybody interacts with their team differently. You can have overlap with other people, but for the most part, everybody feels differently about their favorite team. And that's part of why emotional whirlwinds like this are so heated, so contentious. I mean, we've seen like the extreme versions of this where like John Tavares went back to Long Island as a Leaf, and that was like about as extreme as you're going to get in the hockey community. And you get things like this. You got Matthew coming back earlier this season where he got booed, he got cheered during the tribute, and that was really it. And then you had last night where every time Johnny touched the puck, he got booed. There's levels to this. There's a lot of emotions that go into this, and it's what makes sports so interesting. I always go back to before Game 7 of the 2004 ALCS. They were talking to Spike Lee on the field at Yankee Stadium, and Dan Patrick goes, "You couldn't write a script better than this." And Spike Lee turns to him and goes, "No, you couldn't write something like this. That's why sports are the best. A TV show, a movie, that's fake. Someone came up with that. You could not make this up. You could not make up that the Flames are going to go up 2-0 early in this game. They're going to choke away the lead. Lucic is going to fight. They're going to get the lead back. They're going to give the lead up again and then win in overtime." Somebody would have said, "That's a little cliche, don't you think? Wouldn't you have, a
Yeah,
little
like
more creative?"
if someone pitched that to me, I'd be like, okay, I've seen 100 scripts like this today. Thank you. Like, I don't know. I love the emotional roller coaster, even if it is a regular season game. Typically it's against better teams, but I think that my favorite part of last night was the penalty shot going
Oh,
wide.
yeah.
That like to come in early in the game and have that penalty shot and then miss it, just completely whiff, and then not really have much else. Like, I don't know, that I feel like everyone was expecting, myself included, some sort of big revenge game. But then, you have Luch out there throwing punches like it's like you said, early 2010s, and he's probably also fighting for a roster spot as Walker Dewar and Pelletier are also doing pretty well. But, I think that he's trying to revive this lineup and be like, okay, you know what? I just kicked the crap out of some kid. Let's do it. Let's take back the game. And they ultimately did.
It was one of those rare situations where, generally speaking, I'm pretty anti-fighting. After
Mhm.
reading Boy on Ice, I'm very much like, we don't need to punch each other for sport. It's okay if you want to do a combat sport, that's different, but we don't need that in hockey. But in that kind of situation, a big hit, a fight, that's kind of slowed the game down a little bit. At that point, the Blue Jackets had scored 2 straight. And there was a real, like, okay, we need to calm this game down, get it back under control. And it's a lot easier for Lucic to do that as opposed to going to get 45 seconds of sustained offensive zone time. It's a lot more it's a lot more practical to say, all right, go out there and hit someone and try and swing the momentum of this game back in our direction.
Right.
As opposed to the more conventional, all right, let's play straight line, let's simplify it, let's slow this down and try and score. It ultimately ended up working. You don't draw it up like that. You don't want to be going to overtime against lottery teams, but it worked out. So we're going to take our victories where we can get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We are going to continue to talk about last night's game and just the etiquette of how things should go versus how you should conduct yourself amongst not just the Flames fan base, but teams on the East Coast that are insufferable. Even if their team did not give Johnny an offer. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break to talk about FanDuel. FanDuel, oh my gosh. Nick, did any of your bets hit this weekend?
Yes, we did. We cleaned up this weekend. We went 4 for 4 on all of our football picks. I had straight money line all 4 games. I had the Bengals. I had the Eagles. I've had a very good football playoffs. The only game I've gotten wrong the entire playoffs so far was Buccaneers Cowboys because I picked the Bucks. Other than that,
I think
I haven't been wrong yet. Yeah, it's been a fun playoffs. I'm very excited for this weekend.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you want to even get more jazzed up, we are so excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America, and that is FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because they have so many great features that make sports betting fun and easy. For new customers, you can join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at fanduel.com/lockedon. And of course, FanDuel has all your favorite bets from money line to point spreads to player props. I like betting the money line because I feel like that's the easiest. You just kind of go with your gut, but also sometimes go against your gut, especially in the NHL playoffs. But, I think that I will just continue to keep betting on Joe Shiesty, my man, the white boy of the century on sports Twitter. Nick, do you have any fun bets that you think you're going to place?
For football, I'm probably gonna. I don't like the Bengals as a road favorite. That's a difficult situation. I love San Francisco. I will probably end up betting San Francisco as a slight dog to beat the Eagles. The bet I would give you if you really want something to bet, go look at the NHL futures, look at awards, and go to that second or third favorite. Like right now for the Norris, you can get Adam Fox at like 3-1. He's below Cale Makar. You do something like that. You could do Connor Hellebuck, who's third or fourth in Vezina odds. That's where you can find a lot of value in those long-term futures. Especially, all you need is Hellebuck to get on a little heater here. All you need is Cale Makar to stumble a little bit, and Fox can leapfrog him. That's where I love to look for hockey, at least, is the futures, because that's where there's real interest, and you can get your friends in on it. Where like instead of like pitching stocks to your friends, you're like, I've got a future we can bet. Yeah. Throw $10 on Adam Fox. It'll pay for something down the road.
Hey, that's pretty fair, and I would say that's pretty solid advice. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I am absolutely getting into more sports betting because I think it's just so chaotic and fun, especially when you get like those free bonuses that FanDuel's doing. So, I think really even as soon as Gaudreau put that pen to paper, everyone knew his return was going to be something. My favorite was Eric Goodbranson just getting a picture because there's no tribute footage to give of this third pairing defenseman just kind of being a big dude. Could probably do some sort of like fan cam thirst trap for him, but that's really it. I think that would work too. But Gaudreau's tribute video was everything that it should have been. And I expected it to close out with the hug between him and Sean Monahan, but that's fine. I don't get creative saying these things. I want to pick your brain on this.
Shoot.
He didn't really look up and watch his tribute video. Why? Why do you think?
He didn't want to get emotional. That's the most straightforward thing. That is how you know a man is in fight or flight when it comes to his emotions, if he's pretending nothing is going on. If he's looking straight ahead with a 1,000-yard stare, he's trying his best not to cry. That is exactly what was going on. He was trying to stay focused, locked in on the game, not be distracted. That's what was going on there. He was trying to pretend it wasn't happening. As a short king, he probably doesn't like attention all that much. There's probably a reason he moved to Ohio. He doesn't like attention. It's a fair assumption to say Johnny Gaudreau doesn't like attention, and that's probably why.
And I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
even his wife's Instagram is private, which I totally understand and get. So you know that they kind of keep their cards close to their chest, and that's their prerogative. So respect it. But yeah, no, I completely agree. People on the timeline were just kind of like, well, that's so disrespectful. How can you not watch your own tribute video? It's like when you're at your own birthday party and people are singing happy birthday, you don't know what to do with yourself. Like, do I sing along? Do I smile? Like, what do I do? No, you sit there quietly with your head down, looking at the cake, hands folded, like you're not doing anything. But I do think that the fans, they had their fun. They had their little therapy session, and it would have been a lot worse had the Flames lost.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if the Flames lost, you probably would have saw a jersey or two on the ice last night. I'm not even exaggerating.
Gaudreau jerseys.
Yes, exactly. People would have brought them specifically for that reason of causing a disturbance. 100%. That's the thing that was good about it last night was it didn't teeter on dangerous, chaotic, like we've seen in other situations where you get a disgruntled crowd. Like there was that one year the Flyers were playing the Capitals and everybody got those little light up bracelets and then people started yeeting them on the ice when the Flyers were losing the game. Let's keep it tasteful. Right. If you want to heckle, that's fine. Let's not be disrespectful. Keep the chirps funny. Let's keep it tasteful. That's the key word here. There are children around. There are, Yeah, let's keep it tasteful. Let's have fun with it. Let's not be malicious. There's a decorum to keep as a sports fan here.
Right. Personally, I don't know why you would throw a $300, $400 jersey onto the ice or a $16 beer. But if I had to decide which object, I think I'm going to go with the one that's a little more lightweight. So I know I'm not, responsible for any brain damage. But the thing here is, we've seen him go to different teams that supposedly were offering him deals or in talks with him. I would say that the Flames fans were probably some of the most, controlled.
Yeah.
Because the Islanders, who never even talked with him, those fans were going nuts. He got on Twitter and tweeted at Lou Lamoriello and said, "I'm not coming to your team." That's the reaction that they had.
Oh, man. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. No, it speaks to what we were talking about before, about how the sports media culture being so centered around transactions means that people just report hearsay. They assume that the Islanders talked to Johnny Gaudreau, that the Flyers were going to talk to Johnny Gaudreau, that the Devils were going to talk to Johnny Gaudreau. Even though the Devils made an offer, but not a particularly competitive one, the Islanders never talked to him at all. The Flyers never talked to him at all. And those fans were upset because they were led astray by people reporting things to try and get people to click on their articles. That is what it comes down to. That the transaction-centric sports media stuff is why people get so angry and so chaotic, because they feel disrespected and slighted in situations where they were not even a party to the situation. I do not understand why you are so upset. I get it. If I were an Islander fan, I would be very upset because the team is very rudderless right now. If Johnny Gaudreau was on that team, they'd probably be a lot closer to a playoff spot than they are right now. They desperately need a winger who's capable of playing with Matt Barzal. But you did not make an offer. And you can and the other part of that is there are just people who are just not that well informed, and that is the
Right.
vast majority of sports fans. The vast majority of people on the internet are like the 10% of the most extreme people you're going to find, and no matter what you're tweeting about, whether it's pop culture, politics, sports, whatever, the people who are making their online identity centered around it are going to be the most passionate. They're going to have
Oh,
be the ones
yeah.
with the strongest feelings. They're also going to be the most informed. And then those people will talk to the normal people in their life and be like, "Did you see this?" And then the casual guy will bring it up in conversation. And that's the vast majority of people. The vast
Yeah.
majority of people who are at an Islanders game at UBS Arena are not on hockey Twitter. They're not on Reddit. They're not listening to
Imagine
podcasts.
being in a venue with 18,000 hockey Twitter users.
Oh God, that isn't that a mental hospital?
I was going to say that sounds like a nightmare. Oh my God. I don't even know what I would do. Like, you couldn't even make like a funny joke because everybody would be in on it.
Yes, you could. You could give everybody grippy socks on the way in as the promotional giveaway. Actually, no, you give everybody fertilizer so they could go touch grass. That is exactly what you do.
Oh my God. Like a
That-
chia pet of
Yes,
your favorite player.
that's exactly what you do. So everybody at the game has to touch grass. That is how
Yeah.
we get things back on the tracks.
Yeah, no, that's going to have to be, I don't even know. That would be a nightmare. But do you think there is a different level of animosity towards Gaudreau and Kachuk?
Yeah, because Matthew wasn't getting booed every time he touched the puck when he was in
Yeah.
Calgary. Johnny was. And some of that, I think, was people have known Johnny a lot longer. Johnny Gaudreau has been a figure in their life a lot longer. He was there 9.5, 10 years. That's a really long time in the sports world, especially in hockey where there's so much roster turnover year after year. And somebody they bought in on the ground floor on, this was a 4th-round pick who played 3 years of college hockey. Took a little while to get going, and then you saw an MVP candidate, and then it kind of went away for 2 or 3 seasons, and then it came back, and everybody was like, wow, this guy really figured it out. He's been here for so long. If we can keep him going here, we'll have a real chance of winning a Stanley Cup. And that's another part of this. A lot of people are going to project the fact that the Flames aren't as good as they were last year onto Johnny and onto Matthew. And that's a fair complaint, that if Johnny Gaudreau was still on the Flames, they'd probably be a better team. It's the same thing we just talked about with the Islanders, with the Devils, with the Flyers.
Mhm.
They're mad because he's a good player and they want him to be on the team. I understand that. That's a rational set emotion to have.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. But I think for me, it's not like a respect thing for me. It's more of like a normal, rational thinking. At least Kachuk was honest
Yeah.
a year in advance and just said, my plans were, to leave and to let you know. And I'm letting you know now so that way you can figure it out. And
Yeah.
I think Gaudreau did what he thought. He thought he was staying here. He even said himself, even the night before free agency opened, he was probably going to resign, and then things just took a turn, and that's life. I think it's a lot different because I'm not out here as a star athlete, but things change. Like, life is unpredictable, and sometimes you just have to go with it.
Yeah, and the other part of this is that Gaudreau probably didn't get the market he thought he was going to get when he hit free agency, which is probably part of why he thought he was going to end up coming back. And then the Blue Jackets kind of came in with that offer, and everybody was kind of surprised that the Blue Jackets, a team clearly in a rebuild that was clearly going to be a lottery team again, would make such a what's the word I'm looking for? Forward offer? Aggressive offer. That's the word I was thinking of. They made such an aggressive offer in a situation where most people would say, why would you do this? You're going to pay a guy that much money to be on a bad team for the first 3 years of that contract, and you have no understanding of how well he's going to age the longer you get into that contract. Like, I understand. I really, really do.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, whatever. Columbus, you did what you needed to do. I'm not bitter towards Johnny. I'm bitter towards
the situation.
Like, it's not personal. I would sit there and have a ham and cheese sandwich with a bag of chips with Johnny Gaudreau. If he asked, I would. But again, nothing personal, Johnny. It's hockey. It's a sport. You know the deal. You said you'd boo Jalen Hurts. Like, I can't blame you there. But we are going to wrap up today's show with some just sweet, sweet revenge. Who doesn't love it? And thank you all for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Flames. We are so grateful to talk to you more about one of our fantastic sponsors, and that is a product that I use every day with Athletic Greens AG1. I have a bad stomach, and I want to make sure that my stomach is not bad so I can go to games and eat like crap and not feel as intense ramifications, right? So with AG1, you are just one scoop of powder into your water every day. It tastes like just like a tropical flavored water. Like if you remember Fruit 2.0 from like the early 2000s. Oh my God, I'm dating myself here. But that's exactly what it tastes like. And it's a lot better than just plain water. Athletic Greens was created when the founder was experiencing a ton of gut health problems, and he was spending up to about $100 per day with his health regimen. It's not cheap. So, for less than $3 a day, you're investing in your health, and it's a lot cheaper than your cold brew habit. I paid $6 the other day for a coffee. But with Athletic Greens right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. I keep mine right on my counter, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Fruit 2.0s. I wonder if they had those in Canada. If not, you had an equivalent. It's fine. Listen, that game last night. They went up 2-0. I was like, this is beautiful. And then, Columbus scores 2 goals. Now it's tied. And then Boone Jenner scores. Or no, the Flames scored, and then Boone Jenner scored. And I was like, this is going to a shootout. I'm ready to turn on the coffee pot and my little Keurig mini. So I was ready. But no, we were saved. We were saved. Just with a little extra hockey last night.
Hey, at the end of the day, you won. That is the most important thing. You picked up 2 points that you needed. Like, yeah, there were extenuating emotional circumstances last night. The Gaudreau return definitely loomed large over the game. But at the end of the day, the Flames are in a playoff fight, and they got a very important win that they really needed, to be frank with you. I mean, they're 5-3-2 in their last 10. That's not exactly world-beating. You need to be beating Columbus when you have the opportunity to play these bad teams. I know you had sent you sent me that stat last night that the Flames have an awful record against the bottom 5 teams in the league.
Yeah.
A good record against the 5 best teams in the league, which just goes to show you how weird hockey is. But the best revenge in hockey is winning. I know everybody says, no, go out there, throw a hit, punch someone in the face. That's good for 5 minutes. That's emotionally satisfying for 5 minutes. That type of revenge isn't as satisfying. Scoring goals, win the game, laugh at the other team. If you want, you could say you can tweet that tweet of Johnny standing at the podium in Columbus holding up the jersey saying, I came here to win hockey games. If you want to laugh, you can do that. You can have fun poking fun at that. But at the end of the day, it's about the win. The win is what matters. It's great you beat Johnny Gaudreau, but the win is really what matters when you're in a playoff fight the way the Flames are.
Yeah, absolutely. And sure, Columbus gets a point out of last night, but that doesn't help them. And I think that's what would have been a lot worse had the Flames given them the 2 points. It's just like, what?
Actually, if you want to be petty, you could say making their lottery odds worse is actually helping them. So them going to overtime was actually a good outcome for hating on Johnny Gaudreau in the Blue Jackets.
You're welcome, Columbus.
Yes.
You're so welcome. Yes. But there were people just talking about how they wanted to, hurt Gaudreau and all
Yeah.
that. Like, what is wrong with you? Again, sticking with the therapy mental health theme here, go to therapy. Most of you are Canadians. Don't you have access to this stuff for free? Kind of. But like, it's what does that solve? What does that bring you? If seeing someone hurt brings you great joy,
Yeah.
you have a lot bigger problems. Like, yeah, someone throwing a big hit in a playoff game is that to me that is so much sweeter than someone throwing a big hit in the dead of winter against the 32nd, like literally the worst team in the league.
Exactly.
I don't care who's on it.
Exactly. We won the game. We're on to the next
Right.
one. We got
Right.
big games coming up. That's what matters. Go in your next couple games here before the All-Star break. Go into the break, your week off on a good note. That's what matters right now. It's great you got your sentimentality points too, that you got your little revenge, but when you're a team like the Flames right now, the wins are what matters. You ask anybody on that team, like, yeah, it's great we beat Johnny, whatever. We got to make the playoffs here. That's what matters.
Right. And on top of that, you just lost Chris Tanev, and they're not giving an update on him the same way they didn't give an update on Brett Ritchie. So, and he still hasn't returned to the lineup. So you better be crossing your fingers and toes right now that he seeks some good medical treatment, and I maybe just pop that shoulder back in. And I'm not advising for people to take Toradol shots, but if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But I think it was a really fun game. The emotions were there. Columbus is just such a young team that all of their players just look like babies.
Yes.
And Kent Johnson just playing with Gaudreau was just to me that's one of those things that's like bigger than hockey. Like he wore 13 for Gaudreau, and then Gaudreau didn't even know that that's why he was wearing it, and he was like, "Oh my god!" Like he offered to give it to me. Like no, like I'll pick something else. Like I don't know. It's just silly things like that. But at the end of the day, the Flames won. They get their 2 points. They've won 3 straight, right? Yeah. And they lost their first game of that homestand, which was fine. Whatever. You had a giant win against Tampa.
Yes.
And please just keep the wins coming. I think that's all we can ask for. And good health.
Yeah, exactly. They need Tanev healthy. That a long-term Tanev absence would really hurt them.
Yeah. And who are you going to call up?
Exactly.
I just saw something about like Dennis Gilbert potentially being called up, even though he was served a 2-game suspension in the AHL, but that still doesn't affect it. Him being recalled because it's just when he is serving with the Wranglers. So that is absolutely something to keep an eye out for. Flames are off today, so there's no practice. We just keep on trucking. That's really it. And it's over and done with. The season, the game that most people have been waiting for all season, it's over, and you won. Congrats.
Let's get to work. Lots to do still. Gotta lock up a playoff spot. Plenty of time left to mess this up. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, don't mess it up. Don't do it, because that would be really bad. And we've experienced enough bad in the last 7 months here in Calgary. And we just need something good to talk about. And I think last night was a great way to, our new year, new me is starting a little later, and that's okay because January is just a trial month. So, Nick, is there anything else that you had in mind for today? Anything you wanted to throw out there? Any fun stats or anything you have?
Oh, I was reading something the other day about how Huberdeau had never played with 2 right-handed line mates before he got to Calgary this year at the start of the season when he was playing with Lindholm and Toffoli, and now he's playing with 2 left-handed guys. Yeah, I don't know why I found that interesting, but I did read that the other day in something I was looking into about why he got off to such a slow start.
That's very interesting. That is definitely that would factor into a lot of things. I'm not an athlete, but did a change when these guys are a creature of habit. So that injury that was still lingering on top of a new situation, that's fair. So thank you everyone for sticking around with us here at Locked On Flames, your two terminally online podcast hosts. You can find the show on Twitter at LO_FlamesPod, on YouTube at Locked On Flames, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto and Nick at Nick Zararis, and we're just here to tweet and just be menaces to society online, because if there was a hockey Twitter like meetup at a game, we would probably be there. So Nick, now that the Giants season is over, I think you're joining me more than once a week.
Yes, that is the plan. Yeah.
You guys are just going to be wheeling and dealing in great content now. So we will be here, and enjoy your Tuesday, everyone. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid just for instant gratification.